What people may not realize is how much microtonality there already is in Western music.
You're like an explorer.
I'm an explorer. I'm an explorer of the world of microtones, I guess. It's kind of like back before there was the internet. You remember when you wanted to look up something, you had to like go to the library and take all this time. And now you just have an iPhone and you can look anything up in 3 seconds. That's what it is. It's like, what does this chord sound like? Oh, it sounds like that. Because before I'd be like in a computer typing in like in this program Scala, like this frequency ratio and that, and it'd take like probably like 30 seconds just to get one chord. You can't play music like that, right? But with this thing, it's like real music now to me. You know. And oh, the journey, it's just been amazing. You know, it all started so young for me that it's like hard to imagine life without music, you know, like it's magic in a way. Right now we're in South Street Studios on South Street. Philly has a great music scene. It always has, like historically. A lot of the best players are from Philly. McCoy Tyner, Philly Joe Jones. I started off, my grandmother was a piano teacher. She was like the neighborhood piano teacher. She and my father, who's also a musician, you know, kind of saw that I took to the piano, so they started teaching me. Middle school, high school, I started to get interested in jazz, for lack of a better term. I got, you know, serious about it when I went to college at the University of Miami. And then I went to New York, and that was where it really all changed. You know, you think you know what you're doing. You go to New York and you hear the players there, and it's like, woof, you know. I would be going to like Smalls. Probably was my favorite of the jazz clubs. I'd be there every night. They'd have jam sessions till like 4 in the morning. And I mean, just being in New York and hearing the kinds of people there who, you know, like underground, still emerging talent, play at that level was like, man, like really, you know, it's like the real world. The way they play, the way they think of melody, the emotion they have, and just the vibe, that warm, fuzzy vibe sometimes. You just know there's something about the way they're thinking of music, something special about what they're doing that at least I didn't learn in school. I don't think it's taught in schools. I don't know if you can teach it. You have to be there, you know, every night and just absorb it. It's a subliminal thing, you know. And meanwhile, I have like that going on, and then I've also got this online microtonal community. And I'm learning about these interesting theories of these chords and the harmonic series and just intonation and the temperaments and all that stuff. And there are parts of the world that don't use, you know, 12-tone equal temperaments. You know, Makam music, as they call it, is microtonal. There's gamelan music in Bali and in Indonesia. In the Middle East, there's also many different. There's Turkish music, there's Persian music, there's Arabic music. In music in Africa, there's a lot of microtonality. In fact, pretty much everywhere except for this bubble of the Western world is very microtonal. You know, when I started listening to all these avant-garde composers, I didn't quite get it. And I was like, am I too old to understand microtonality? Do I have, you know, is it like learning a language? But what people may not realize is how much microtonality there already is in Western music. And this was a concert I always remember. It was Gary Clark Jr. at Bonnaroo in 2000 and something, 15, 13, something like that. Gary Clark Jr. is like an amazing guitar player, and he's a very like into the blues in particular. And you know, blues players, when they play, and when they sing and when they play guitar, are literally never just playing, you know, this kind of cheesy blues scale they teach you in school. You know, it's good to start out as a beginner, but it's not really what the blues sounds like, right? I mean, guitarists, singers, they know what notes they want to sing. They know how to get that kind of feel, you know, and it's a feel thing. And what I like the most about this is I can do this, you know. You know? I mean, that's not on a piano. There's no way to... You know, and I almost feel like a guitarist a little bit. Like I can, you know... Right? Like that's awesome. Anyways, he's playing though, and I have this moment where I was like, man, he's really getting that, like, you know, that super epic, like, I don't know, stanky, whatever you want to call it, sounding note, like every time. I was like, man, he's got like a chromatic scale or something in his head when he wants to play all three of these kinds of third. He knows that's a note in his head. There's really another note there. It's not like a bendy note or an in-between note. It's just a different note. There's this note, and there's this note, whatever, and there's that note, you know? You know, if you want to play it with some feeling, you've got verses, you know? And then there's this one. Maybe that one's, you know, a little, you know, it's less of a bluesy feel to me. And that's kind of a big deal, that note. Like, I don't know what the tuning is exactly, but when he wants to play this, he plays that. And when he wants to play this, you know, he plays that. And when he wants to play this, he plays that. You know, you got three notes. And I just had this moment where it's like the stars aligned. It was like, wow. You know, I think most people know the blues has like microtonality in it, but that's really like, it's like the last thing you're usually thinking about when you're playing the blues. Like if I'm playing the blues, I'm thinking about what kind of day I just had, you know? Like, from like a theory, math angle, the blues kind of defies explanation to me. I don't even think people realize, like, in any kind of mathematical way, in fact, I'm sure they don't, like, what it is. I'm not really thinking about frequencies at this point, like, I'm trying to just play. I feel like a guitarist a little bit. Like it's like a feeling, you know, like if I'm playing. You know. It's something I would have never thought of until I was like able to just sit and play and then be like, this sounds good, that sounds good. Nope, not that. Yeah, I like that, you know. So yet another reason that this thing has changed my life, really. with something like the LUMATONE, it's the, you know, I don't know if you want to call it experimentation, but like I wasn't able to play any of these like this chord again. Right. Like that chord does not exist in, you know, a regular sort of 12-tone equal tempered instrument. You know, it's interesting, like microtonality found me in a way. Really for my whole life I was really interested in like scales and harmony. I remember in high school, like Victor Wooten, you know, amazing bass player, one of the best ever, had like a master class that I went to as part of my jazz band, and he was like talking about the modes and like Dorian mode, and that's like the James Brown key, he called it. And I at the time was just like, wow, I'm learning all the modes. It's like I'm learning music. You know, there's Mixolydian mode. They use that at the end of Hey Jude. You know. Right, this is Mixolydian because of that chord, you know. If it was major, it'd be, you know, but it's got this, you know, kind of powerful 60s, very common like in the 60s to play that thing. So anyway, at the time, that's the thing I started to get into, was like all of these different scales and modes. That's not the way everybody likes to think of it, but that's just the way I thought of it. I felt like every one of these scales was my own personal friend. Like you can only go so far with that before, you know, you get tired of the nerdy academicness of it and you want to just play real music, you know. And so I started to, you know, really try to develop a sound and get stuff together, and I started to feel after a while like some of the things I wanted to play like didn't exist. I didn't think of it like, oh, they're in microtonal scales. I just thought of it like for some reason they don't exist. Or like there should be a color. Like I would often think like, you know, synesthesia-wise, like there should be a color that is gray. And then I started thinking eventually later, like, what if I had different notes? You know, like maybe that's the answer. And I guess that turned out to be the answer. Like I have, what do they call it, synesthesia. So whenever I play, I'm hearing colors in my head and stuff. And these new, you know, microtonal notes, keys, whatever, are kind of like new colors that I didn't have. And now that this is here, it's like, the threshold is starting to be crossed. Like I can actually play, like I don't know what tune to play, but I mean just anything. Like if I have this chord, all right, this is a harmonic series chord, right? 7th harmonic. All right, there's the 11th harmonic, the infamous, you know, just intonation, 11th harmonic. Right. Well, if I'm not playing that in a musical setting, it's just a sound. It's not really music, you know? Like, if I'm sitting there on a computer with, like, Scala, it's this microtonal software, and I'm like, let's play these harmonics, and da-da-da-da, like, it's not really music. It's just, like, trippy sounds. But you know it could be music, right? But, like, now that I have this, I can just, like, all right, how can I work that into something? Right, so I mean, I played that pretty straight, but then suddenly I threw in like, right? And that's not like the most out there you can get at all. But I like that sound. I like kind of just working that stuff in there in a way I feel is like organic. It's one of the things you can do. Before I had the LUMATONE, I knew about those possibilities. Like 31 has this, and I was like, whatever, it sounds just like 12, da-da-da. As soon as I got this, it's like the only thing I played. I just got hooked. I was like, geez, you know? It's like I'm more of an improviser than a composer. I don't typically sit down and write things out. I like to just kind of go with it. mean, I've spent so many years imagining and dreaming of like notes I would play. That's one of the things I'm hoping this keyboard does, you know, because prior to this, it's been a lot of talking about ideas. And like there's this famous quote like, is it talking about music is like dancing about architecture? You need something in front of you that you can just play notes and hear what they sound like. You know, part of what I'm really liking about this is that I'm seeing people get one of these and suddenly have all these ideas. And like ideas I would have never thought of, ideas that nobody's really thought of. And if I didn't have this keyboard so I could use that other part of my brain where I'm just like playing rather than looking at math, you know, like and actually play as a musician, I don't know how I would have ever even thought of some of this stuff. There's so many possibilities because I can just do this and now I'm in a different tuning, you know, I can switch it up. Like, if I didn't have that, I'd have to have like a different keyboard, I guess, for every tuning I want to explore. But it all like kind of shakes out here. It's a world of difference to actually have an instrument that you can play and let that part of your brain, you know, that's a musician, you know, be in charge instead of having the analytical theory side be in charge. It changes everything. And I don't think it's even possible to play any of the stuff I've done without a LUMATONE. I play this thing probably more than the regular piano at this point. So yeah, super happy, kind of life-changing. But even just the ability to just like sit there and be like, how can I make music with these sounds I've studied is such a breakthrough that I can't even, it's hard to like explain. I mean, like imagine you just got a piano for the first time and all you've been doing for the past 10 years is reading about the theory of the piano and the hammers and how they work and the frequency ratios and blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly you get a piano. It's like, what the, you know, like how would you feel?